Alright, what we have here today is a early 90s, maybe 1993, Ryobi blower vac 310 BVR. The issue with this unit is it no longer wants to run. It's probably never been maintained and just won't run anymore. So let's see what we can do to solve the issue. First thing you want to do on these units is remove the output tube. All that is a clamp with one screw, and you want to remove these little Torx head screws, which you can do with a Torx screwdriver or a flathead. They have both. Torx, flathead, and all these screws, as you can see here, kind of have a little slot so you can use a flathead if you don't have the Torx. Take those out all the way around. The side panel is going to come right off. And we can set that aside. And that lets you see the unit itself. So what we're going to do next is kind of try to take this apart, clean it, and see if we can get it running. Alright guys, I don't know if you can tell how dirty this is, but this has got dirt and just grime everywhere. Look at this. It's on everything, including the carburetor, which we'll probably wind up having to rebuild. Dirt on everything. So what you do, I showed you how you could take this top cover off. What you do for the other side cover is the triggering mechanism kind of sits right in here. This slides out as well as the kill switch. It just slides right out. And the cable that runs the trigger runs through this down, which is actually this cable here. You just disconnect from the top. The little plastic thing just kind of unhooks from here. Take that off. This runs all the way down, as you can see, and then up to the bottom of this carburetor. And take the kill switch off. That slides right out. Just pull it right out, and that's your kill switch. That pulls right out easy. That gets you to this point. There's also a line from your fuel tank that goes up to your choke, which the choke bulb was gone, and there's a return line as well. This only had one of them on there, so we'll fix all that up. We're gonna basically, on the next step, we're just gonna take some brake cleaner or electrical parts cleaner, anything like that, clean out all the dirt and grime that we can get to, use the air gun, do whatever we need to do to clean everything out, everything off of here real lightly. Want to make sure that your carburetor's closed so you don't get anything down there. Probably put a rag on top and clean everything off. Then we'll test to see if we have spark and see if we can take the carburetor apart and rebuild that. We will be right back with you. In order to get this exhaust shroud off, we need to take these bolts out, and these are actually really going to be pretty tight. So what I had to do was take a Torx screwdriver and a wrench on the top to turn at the same time to break those loose. Same with this. Instead of using a slotted, I actually used a nut driver. You're going to need, what is that? Looks like a 9/16 nut driver. Pull those out. These will come all the way out, and we can take the shroud off. Screws on the sides do not need to come out. And there's everything out all the way. So I take that back. In order to get the exhaust out from the exhaust shroud, you do need to take these small silver Torx screws out, and that enables this bracket to come off and you can get the exhaust out. We can take this apart and clean this now, just like you do on any other unit. We can also inspect the cylinder to see if we have any scoring on the cylinder or the piston. We will need to get a light in there, and you want to make sure that if you are cleaning, you don't want any of this to get down in there, any of this buildup to get down in there and score it once we get this running again. So if you are going to do something, try to be very careful with how you do this, but we want to get all this residue off. And what I like to do to get this cleaned is to stick a rag down the exhaust port. And as you can see, I kind of already started this grab a small piece of sandpaper, really fine grit, and back and forth real lightly. Scrape that off, work your way around. Off camera I did take a look at the cylinder under the light. See if I can hold three things at once. And when I do pull the pull cord, let's see, how can I do this? Yeah, let's try to do it like this. When I do pull the pull cord, it does have good compression. It is a single ring piston, and I don't think that's going to be an issue for us. If you do think you have any residue that's gone down your cylinder, or you're just trying to be extra careful rather than using an air gun to clean that out, recommend just using a small shop vac. Turn it on its side so it's facing downward. Turn that on and suck everything out of there. We can check everything again with the light, but we should be good to go. In order to pull the spark plug, you're going to need a 5/8 spark plug wrench. Pull that out. We have the shroud off of the carburetor. All you need to do at this point, since the kill switch is not engaged, stick this against the metal. And with two hands you can pull the pull cord and see if you have a spark. In this case we do, so we know that spark is not going to be our issue. Having a new spark plug is not going to hurt anything. However, we do have spark and we know that we don't have an issue there. Carburetor, what we'll do to start things out is we will try to just spray some carb cleaner down there. Piece everything minimally back together to see if we can get it to fire at all, but most likely what we need to do is rebuild the carburetor. In rebuilding the carburetor, you need to figure out which carburetor you have. In this case, it's a Walbro, and there should be on the underside of this a model number as well, and you can get a rebuild kit using that model number. I can tell you right now, just in activating the throttle linkage, that it feels a lot less gritty than it did before, so hopefully everything was external, but we'll keep you posted. This is the choke fuel line. This should go to the bottom side of the primer bulb, which you saw before we did not have. And then the other line from the primer bulb goes from the gas tank to that primer bulb. So we'll get that fixed as well. Left the carburetor hooked up to the linkage. Rolls over like this, and there's one gasket. That just isn't even compression, it's just like a rubber gasket, and sits on top of this. You need to clean all this out. This had half a pine tree in here. So clean this out, make sure nothing gets down into here, get everything nice and clean, and assuming that you've rebuilt your carburetor, start putting this thing back together.